Hi, I'm Robert Kelly of Partners Data Systems. Thank you all for taking the time to view this live demo. Today I'm excited to have John Petty of Quantum joining us to talk about their new QXS storage arrays with real-time auto-tiering. Unlike most storage arrays in the market that are either only spinning drives, which can be slow, or all flash, which are very expensive, the Quantum QXS storage arrays literally move data between different performance tiers every 5 seconds, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, keeping performance at its peak all the time. You get the best of both worlds, the low cost of high-capacity spinning disks to hold everything, while at the same time enjoying the high performance of flash for the data that's being used at any given time. Most importantly, the QXS storage arrays do this automatically. You, as the storage administrator, don't have to do a thing to benefit from dramatic improvements in performance regardless of data type or size. Best of all, these storage arrays are also incredibly cost-effective. So without further ado, I'd like to turn this over to John for the demo.
Robert, thank you for that introduction. And hello, everyone. My name is John Petty, and I'm with Quantum. I'm the technical subject matter expert for the QXS Hybrid storage product. And on behalf of Partners Data Systems and Quantum, I want to thank you for looking at our video here. I'm going to have a little introductory slide, a couple of things to show you about the system, and then we're going to get into a graphical user interface demo, and we'll build out some storage, maybe map some volumes. So let's get started. Here are some of the markets we serve, some vertical markets. I can tell you I've been working with the product for quite a while, and I have customers in all of these verticals. So I'll point out a couple here, specifically in federal, not in the drones themselves, but in Humvees is where the data storage is that collects data from hundreds, maybe thousands of drones that we're associated with. Education is another one that we do very well in, both in K through 12 and universities. In fact, I just set up a proof of concept at a major university's high-performance computing center with the 4U56 chassis and some Q-tier with some SSD and some 7K drives. So they are kicking the tires on that, and will get back to me in a couple of weeks. We're going to take a look and just touch upon the other pieces in the storage portfolio with Quantum. Of course, we're going to be highlighting this guy right here, the QXS Hybrid storage, but clockwise from there, we offer a DXi deduplication appliance. This is a backup target that will do inline deduplication. We have lattice object storage. This is a geo-spread solution where you would have 3 different sites, typically in 3 different locations. Minimum here is usually a couple of petabytes that you're trying to deal with on object storage. We have LTO scalar libraries, so we get some small ones, big and large, thousands of slots, and many of you may be tape library customers with Quantum already. Next, around the horn, we have Artico. It's a NAS archive. It's sort of a StoreNext Lite appliance, so it runs on StoreNext and has a NAS front end, so it allows you to move data off your primary storage and get it archived. So we can attach, I believe, by fiber channel, say, one of our LTO scalar libraries and move that data off there, freeing up storage in your primary platform. And then, of course, the centerpiece of the intellectual property for Quantum is a StoreNext scale-out storage solution. Now, when I'm in front of customers, I give them a whiteboard and I say, we have controllers plus or minus, or plus chassis, plus or minus software. That's how we kind of figure out your solution. So we have 3 controller offerings. That's where we solve the problems, the performance problems. We might have an entry-level problem, maybe a basic backup to disk. We'd use the QXS3. QXS4 is a more ubiquitous controller, has more ports, can do encryption, can do full tiering of data up to the performance tier or SSD tier. And then we've got QXS6, which is similar to the 4, but much better in the read environment. So if your problem, or your customer's problem, is very read intensive and it won't be solved by the QXS4, we can get about 2x the reads on QXS6. So all of these will do some read caching, and then the bottom 2 will do the full line of products with regard to features for encryption and for tiering. We marry them with chassis, and you see I have 4 chassis there. I've got some blow-ups in some slides coming up. We can mix and match any of these chassis. That's the important part here. Some of them can be R-bods and have RAID controllers in them, and some can be J-bods we can attach just underneath, and we can mix and match. I could make a stack that has one of each in all of them. I could have a TU12, and then a 24, and then a 48, and then a 56. It's a valid configuration. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on or turn off certain software features. So everything comes with, all the controllers come with what we call QTools. That's our virtualization software. Provides a pooling concept along with thin provisioning as well as a quick rebuild. Okay. Now we have some licensable features too. That would be QTier, which is a licensable feature. A read cache solution, a read cache feature is provided in QTools at no charge. And then snapshots and replication are both also licensable features and available. So here's a look at these chassis. Again, your basic 2U12, 2U24. And then we get into some stuff that's really interesting. You've got your 48 drive chassis here. This is a 2U48. We can put in SSD, 10K, 15K, anything that's a small form factor. We can put in 7K here. We've got 1 and 2 terabyte 7K drives in small form factor. But as you can see, serviceable from the inside, pretty dense footprint here when you got a lot of spindles going. Okay, so a common solution is to take this as the R-bod with controllers in it and maybe put the bigger chassis underneath as the J-bod. This is the 56 drive chassis. All these chassis now are NEBS compliant, Network Equipment Building Standard. That's a standard that we have a compliance level of 3 and has to do with fire retardancy and a lot of shock and vibration. So this guy can be an R-bod or a J-bod. You can see 2 trays of drives each. Top loading, we've actually got a spring mechanism, a spring board underneath that couples up with the printed wire board under each drawer, and that keeps a lot of weight of these drives off the printed wire board. So good for longevity of the product. All these chassis and the controllers I should say, come with either iSCSI 1 gig and 10 gig, fiber channel 8 gig and 16 gig, or a direct attached SAS, which is 12 gig. Now here's what's happening in the tiering. We're taking these pages of storage that you see in the blue boxes and we're analyzing them. We're assigning them a score, and every 5 seconds that score will change, and when they get to a certain score, the algorithm will say, well, you're going to get promoted to the next tier. Here we're showing a standard tier to a performance tier. This is where you need a license, the Q-tier license. And we do this every 5 seconds. We move as much as 80 megabytes every 5 seconds. And of course, we do it both ways. We might identify pages that have now been rescored and are lower, and we'll move them down in order to make room for new pages or new writes. All right, so now we're going to take you into the demo. It's going to be a graphical user interface demo, and we're going to show you the configuration pieces and then build out a little bit of storage. So here I've logged on to a system. This is a clean system. You can see I've got 2 storage pools, A and B. And they are corresponded above them with ports A and ports B. These are the ports on the controllers, controller A and controller B. The unit we're using here is a hybrid. It's got 2 ports of fiber on each A and B and 2 ports of iSCSI. So this is very popular when we want to do SAN-to-SAN replication. I would take my fiber ports and map to, say, a cluster of ESX hosts, and then I would do iSCSI to WAN out and replicate to another QXS storage product, either on campus or maybe across the country. This is an asynchronous replication. We're utilizing our snapshot technology to do this. So the best way to attack this is usually on these arrow keys. You see there's 3 on the upper right and 2 on the lower left. So everywhere you see here, you've got something you can do some configuration on. I can manage users. I've got 3 built-in users, and then here someone in the lab has added another user, but manage is the main user. I logged in with him. He's kind of the admin level and can't be deleted. We support NTP, nothing magical there. You put in your time server and your offset. And then we get into some more detailed features, setting up system information. Where is the system located? What's its name? Who's the contact? And then system services. We can actually turn off some of these system services that are a little more or a little less secure. So HTTP, Telnet, FTP, these are all three on by default, and some users, particularly in the public space, will turn these off. Firmware. We have a feature called Partner Firmware Update, where when you start to update a controller, and let's say controller A, he'll update himself and then go ahead and pass the package over so his partner controller can update himself as well. Well, while we're doing this, we have high availability. So when we're doing A, all his storage from pool A will be run by controller B. Controller B can support both pools. And then when the upgrade is happening on B, both pools will fail over to controller A. And we'll update any JBODs as well if they've got code that needs to be updated. That's in the same package. Down here, we've got some log files. This is where you go collect some log files. Our log file is a big tarball that is a bunch of little tarballs that's all collected up. It comes up in a zip file in your downloads directory. And then we've got alert notifications. So we've got some basic SNMP, and you get 3 trap host addresses, and then you can get email alerts as well. So you put in your Exchange or other email address server and your name, probably selecting critical or error level here so you're not getting a lot of the noise associated with basic things that are happening with the array. And then if you want to look at those events, you can look at them in the events list and filter them out. If I just want to see the warning, just see the information, that's great. If I just want to see the warnings, that's great. If I just want to see errors, that's good as well. All right, that's a do's and don'ts on configuration. If I want to set up host ports, I do that over here on system. I'll come to action. I can set my global spares here. You can see system information is here as well. I set up my network ports here, and I might set up my host ports, which for iSCSI means putting in all these IP addresses. For fiber, it's pretty easy stuff. Okay, so let's go ahead and build out some storage. I'm going to go ahead and go to pools. We're going to create a disk group. A disk group is really just a RAID group, and I'm going to plop them and populate the pools. In this case, because we want to keep the video short, I'm just going to really build out in storage pool A, but I would probably do equally the same on A and B. So here, I'm going to do storage pool A. I'm going to create a virtual. You can see I can't do a read cache yet. I've got to create something for it to cache off of. So I'm going to create a little 4+2 RAID 6. And that's successful. I'm going to come over here. So green denotes our standard tier. That's where 10 and 15K drives live. Performance tier would be SSD, and archive tier would be 7K. So now I've got some storage here I'm ready to use, and I decide that I bought a couple SSDs. I'm going to go ahead and front end this with some read cache because I've looked at and done some analysis, let's say for you or your customer, and decided that it would benefit from read cache. So I'll come to pools again, I'll do action, I'll add a disk group, but really what I'm going to do here is add the radio button for read cache. I'm just going to select 1, so you know it's volatile because I'm not protecting it, it's not rated in any way. It's a copy of what's going to be written to the spinning disk group. And here's how it looks graphically. It's not really part of the group, it's a cache. So all the writes will come in off of here, and then we will decide the most frequently read pages of data. If you remember my little blocks going up and down, will get copied up to this read cache. Okay. Now, if you are more write intensive, particularly if you are in a smaller randomized workload, what you're going to do is you're going to benefit from having the Q-tier solution, the Q-tier license. And what we're going to do is we're going to take away this read cache, and we're going to build up a full SSD tier, and we can accept writes on this. First writes, that's why we have to protect it in a RAID 1. So let me go here, and I'm going to come down to this read cache, and we're going to go ahead and remove him, and then I'm going to go back and create the full tier. So I'll remove this. Again, this is volatile, so I'm not damaging any data. All the data is still on spinning disk in the read cache. I'm going to add a disk group. I'm going to make it a RAID 1. I'm going to put it in pool A, and I'm going to select both of these SSDs. I need to do a little screen refresh here because that previous SSD wasn't quite ready. So I'm going to select a pair of SSDs because, again, I'm going to take a first write to this when I have my Q-tier license. And what I'm going to do here is these smaller randomized workloads are very difficult for spinning disk. I'm going to de-randomize those. This is a big advantage over some of our competitors. And it'll take a few minutes for the workload to recognize the random nature of it, and then it will start committing to SSD, and the performance will move up in a linear fashion. So now this is what it looks like graphically. You can see I've got a percentage chunk here of SSD performance and then the green for standard. So when I carve out a volume or a LUN or a mount point, however you want to call it, I'm going to go ahead and get, let's see, I'll call this demo. I'll move over here and make it maybe 150, and I'll make it gigabytes. I can give it an affinity as well. If I want it to be more performance-oriented, that is, I can get it lower the bar for it to get the SSD, I can do that. Or I can make it more archive preferenced, meaning I want an affinity down. I don't want it to really get close to SSD if I don't want to. So let me go ahead and clean this up. And I'm going to go ahead and leave it on standard, no affinity. All right, and there we go. So I've got a volume now, and when I carve out this volume, I'm getting SSD and I'm getting this tier as well. And if I wanted to, I could add a third tier by coming in here, and I could make this, go get some nearline SAS drives and make a third tier. So we can do a 3-tier solution. And the volume that I've created will benefit from the third tier. He now knows about it on the back end, so he will get probably less 10K and a slice of the 7K. And again, I could do affinities here if I wanted to, and I could change the affinity. So now I'm going to look at my volume, and I'm going to go ahead and map it. I'm going to come over here and say map volumes. I've got iSCSI and fiber. I'm going to map it to the fiber. And you can see here, mutually exclusive. I can only be on fiber or iSCSI. 2 and 3 are the iSCSI ports, 0 and 1 are the fiber ports. I'll come over here to a host, some disk management. I'll do some scanning. And there's my 150. So as you know, you'd initialize him and format him, and then we'd be able to use him, and we'd be all ready to go. So take you back here. This is really the basics for today's demo on how the QXS works. Hopefully you got something out of the slide, and then we were able to apply it here in the demo session. So Robert, thank you. I'm going to kick it back over to you.
John, thank you for that great demo, and thank you attendees for taking the time to learn about Quantum's QXS hybrid storage. If you have a requirement for hybrid storage, like you've seen today demonstrated, please feel free to contact one of our storage experts here at Partners Data Systems to discuss your requirements. So have a great day.